And thank you for having us. I just want to let you know that I've lived in the Haller Lake neighborhood for 19 years. I live about a half a block away from Haller Lake United Methodist and right across the street from a daycare and a preschool at the church. Little People's World has 100 children enrolled 5 days a week. Haller Lake Christian Preschool at church has 2 classes of 13 children 2 times a week. There have been no incidents with Tent City 3 being in our neighborhood with the children. In fact, we went to the community meeting and asked numerous questions. When the camp came, we went to visit them, got to hear their stories, what was needed, and how could we help. That was the beginning of a fruitful relationship with my family and Tent City 3. My children were 6 and 8 at that time, and we include them in our clothing and tarp drive, meal cooking, both at home and at church, and community outreach with and for Tent City 3. To unfold in your neighborhood. There's a board here that has 3 items for you to look at: a letter from the director of Haller Lake Christian Preschool, a Seattle Times article about Little People World working with Tent City 3, and the third is an article on the Muslim community coming together to provide meals and winter clothing on a day of dignity. I invite you to come up and look at it after the discussion. Thank you.
I'll put it on the table in the back.
Result, 91.5% of the people in the neighborhood oppose Tent City 3. There is no way that this is not going to be a wildly divisive issue in this neighborhood. It already is. Of course, what a lot of you like to believe, it's an easy thing. But in fact, we've done a lot of research, and we'd like to hear our reasoning. First, as people who are concerned about the homeless ourselves, we believe that Tent City is a poor solution. It crowds the homeless, often ill, into unheated, usually leaky tents during the darkest, coldest, wettest part of the year. Yeah, it's better than the streets, but not much. In one of its handouts, ShareWheel says it would take an indoor shelter if one were offered. But they're not looking. They're committed to maintaining Tent City in spite of its obvious shortcomings. They have their reasons, mostly political, we understand, but we think that's wrong. Of the homes in Seattle have children. It is clear that more appropriate sites are available. On our website, we have posted testimony from past neighbors of Tent City. Some, and you have heard from them in this well-orchestrated presentation, you'll hear from more, undoubtedly have had good experiences. But many have not. There's testimony from police and from neighbors documenting problems with children being harassed, public urination, and so on. There are better locations available. Shoreline Free Methodist Church told us they would welcome Tent City again, but haven't even been asked. Our hearts go out to them. It is also well documented that rates of physical and mental illness, as well as drug and alcohol dependence, are much higher among the homeless than in the general population. Roving facilities like Tent City are not the best way to meet their needs. In fact, one of the earlier pro speakers acknowledged that the roving character of Tent City made it more difficult for people to find and hold jobs. More to the point, though, high rates of mental illness and substance abuse pose risks for the community.
For about 4 months.
I'm Roger, and I've been with Tent City just a little over a year now.
I'm Roger Frank. I've been with Tent City since January 30th of this year.
I'm Roger, number 3. I've been at Tent City for about a year.
I'm Matt Barrett, and I've been at Tent City 3 for over 2 years.
My name's Ben. I've been there for 4 months.
My name is Bruce Thomas, and I'm the old guy from Tent City 4 on the other side of the lake.
Scott Morrow, Sheriff Consultant. I worked with 2 camps for around a decade.
I'm Peggy Coates, formerly of Tent City 4.
I'm Mason Tupani, so I was resident of Tent City 3 for 2.5 years. I've been on the apartment now for 13 months.
My name is Bo, and I stayed at Tent City for
Situation with the neighborhood has been very poor yet again. They should have spoke to us, but they were advised by sheriff to not speak to us before they put it in. That's not fair.
And even though the city of Seattle has made great strides in homelessness, we're still number 7 in the most dangerous place to be homeless. And that's not good. So anything that we can do is a good thing. Tent City, no, it's not perfect, but it is. It's a way off of the street. When the gentleman mentioned that he was camping in the woods here, that's true. You'll see people camped all around you every day if you look, but most of you don't look. Most of you don't see them, you don't know them, you don't talk to them, you don't have the opportunity to talk to them. You're just scared. You see some weird guy on a bicycle picking up cans, and you've never talked to him. He's lived in this neighborhood for as long as I can remember. You've never talked to him. Probably most of you haven't. But he lives here. He lives somewhere in the woods around here. Homelessness is every
opposed to Tent City in general. I'm just opposed to this specific location, and I'll tell you why. My husband and my daughter and I just moved here, actually, from Green Lake. We lived about a block from Aurora in our previous house. Excuse me. It was a fine house. It was a safe enough neighborhood, but it was a block from Aurora. There was a lot of crap that went on there. So we decided to move up here. Quiet neighborhood, very, nice house. We were actually really happy there was a church down the street. It seemed like a really good thing. But then when Tent City is going to move in, I feel like it's going to be a lot of extra people in the neighborhood. And, I and my neighbors are the ones who have bought property there. And yet we have absolutely no say in who moves in. And I realize you can't tell who your neighbors are. But if this is a temporary thing, if someone was building an apartment complex in that parking lot, I would assume that the neighbors would have some sort of say. We all live in that neighborhood because we wanted a quiet place to live. I wanted no traffic. That's one of the reasons I think it's the wrong location. Another reason, it's at the top of the hill. It's going to be in the middle of winter. Now, granted, I don't know what the winter is like in this neighborhood. I haven't lived here. But I have lived in Seattle for the past 10 years, and when it snows, the city shuts down. We all know that. So what's going to happen to the people when they can't get access to buses, when, frankly, there aren't really good buses around this system? I know. I take the bus to work, and it takes me a half an hour to get downtown at a minimum. It just doesn't seem like a good location. There aren't stores nearby. The third is a personal reason, and I'll admit, yes, I am fearful, and I'll tell you why. When I was a kid, our house was broken into twice. I'm not making assumptions about who that was. I do know that it was someone who got off on the bus stop nearby, broke into the windows, nobody was home. The second time they broke in, they came in through my sister and I, our bedroom window. And that experience has lived with me for the rest of my life. So I'm sorry, I am scared. I'm not scared of the people who are sitting here. I see you, I see that you're nice people. I've read all the crime statistics. I've read, all the reports online, good and bad. You can find anything out there that you want that's going to support how you feel. But you can't change how I feel about it because of my personal experience, and I hope the people from Maple Leaf will take that into account.